I sent it once and I tried again. So I'm
I
glad it
got
worked
you.
out for everyone.
That's okay.
All right, so this week we get to focus on the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago mentoring program. Who would like to share some of the positive results of the pilot program? Any,
Well, in the program,
So-
it talked about them.
It says just start the discussion by asking what were the positive results of the pilot program. So I'm assuming at the very beginning how oddly it had a really high rating that it worked for the first group of people before we came into the problem of why the second round didn't turn out as good. So what kind of positive feedbacks were they getting?
Well, I think the positive feedback from the first round was, they saw the need for training, and then that training with mentor groups, once it got approved, they saw people enjoying their jobs more, staying more loyal to the banking world, which they, admitted was not for like the high salaries like the investment banking world, and then they felt more support inside all the departments as well.
I thought there was some good things for the mentees that were able to get to know different parts of the bank, and it talked about how some got promotions based on it and got opportunities to get to know different parts of the banking world, or their mentors were able to give them different outlooks on different positions within the bank, which I thought was a big positive for those being mentored.
Okay. Did you feel like the employees were feeling like a little bit more loyal to the bank because they actually felt like, oh, well, they care about us now that they're willing to teach us and give us newer experience, and by us being able to network together, there was a sense of value for additional education as well as a developed loyalty?
I do. I think that they really had more loyalty to their company. Like the people who were willing to leave were willing to stay.
It seemed like some had more excitement about possible advancements in their career, because before in that environment you can just feel stuck in a spot and not be able to move around or have desire to move around, and I think it did that too. It also said some of them had the desire to use the tuition access program to receive funding to help them go back to school, so it did help with that too.
So that's actually getting into our next question. List the reasons for the positive results in the pilot program. And so you say a school reimbursement program, that was part of one of the positive results of the pilot program. What else?
I think it goes back to the question just before also. It increased customer or employee loyalty. They invested in their employees, and their employees are reinvesting back into the company. They're going to try different routes and stuff. So the very fact that some employees that would have left stayed is a good result.
I think something that also helped was it was a voluntary program. So, I think you had a little bit more buy-in for it because they knew they were going to have to do these things and working for a little bit, but it was also stated that they had to complete their work too, that they couldn't fall behind on their work. So I think the voluntary part of it made it more desirable, rather than coaxing somebody in with money. They're just going to do it for the money, but because it was voluntary, they did it because they wanted to.
Definitely one of the highlights was the voluntary nature of the program. The people that wanted to, like you said, through matching process, it people were better to relate to each other, as well as other, personal involvement, such as the Rubinstein. Is that how you say his name?
Amy. Just Amy.
Yeah.
Amy. Oh, I was mixing her up with Jack. That's what I was thinking of. Blackston.
One thing I
Somebody
did
needs a
want
diaper change.
One thing I did want to say is that I really liked how they did the pairing of the mentors to the mentees and how much emphasis they placed on that. I mean, they could have just stuck them with anyone, really, and been like, hey, they're wise, they know what they're doing, you learn from them. But they really invested a lot of time and effort into the pairing process, which I think was produced those positive results.
Yeah, it said they spent like 2 to 3 days or something like that
Yeah.
just on working on that.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is how these reasons or causes for success results in success, which one are most important? Are any of them specific to the bank, or would they work in other organizations? So, for example, having a mentor and a mentoree, I personally don't think it's not just a bank thing that you could put it into any other organization. What other importance do you feel that type of success would be?
Well, I thought it was important that they picked out people who didn't get a lot of interaction with other areas.
So
Gotta build it up to me.
like it would expand the horizon. So I mean, rather than you just knowing your one department, you'll be able to branch out. You know who in relationship you have outside just the paperwork, and how you can communicate between each other. That way, you guys, because I mean, I guess from what I understand from the banking world, you got your own typical assignments and customers that you deal with, but then you got to push your paperwork to someone else that they either have to review it, they have to approve it, and they got to go on to the next guy, next person, and the next person. And so if you have a better personal relationship with that individual, then you know exactly what they're looking for. You know what they want. You can make their job easier, and overall your productivity will, And as far as the mentorees, the individual that are getting mentored, they learn, what they like, what they don't like, so that they can develop a career into that portion of the bank that they want to be in, rather than having to go through all the different positions to know where they're going to succeed the most in,
I think another key to the mentoring program was Amy's involvement with the there were some disagreements between the mentors and mentorees, and she came in and kind of mediated them and got them back to where they needed to be and to enjoy it. And she really put a lot of time and effort into making that program work. And so you would need to have something like that, like her, in other programs to help keep it running smoothly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think one thing that's important to make it work, not just right in the times, but long term, maybe multiple times over, is tweaking it. One thing that they did is they did the first time, wow, this worked really, really well, let's do it again. But since the bank done it working the same exact way, they didn't change it, they didn't it, and it flopped. They didn't advertise as well because, it worked, so we don't need to advertise it. But you just make sure that they're adapting it to each group and what they're trying to use it in. They're always in different departments, different companies. You can't just do the same thing over and over again. It won't work.
So would you say mentoring is a pretty good way to actually help employees with career development? I need a little bit more highlight on that one. That was one of the questions that we were kind of getting into, and I didn't ask how mentoring helped the employees with career development.
Well, I think it helped them feel valuable. And so I think once you make an employee feel valuable, they're, number one, more willing to put more into on their end for their career. But number two, with the mentor, you're willing to teach. You're teaching someone something, so you're advocating continual learning.
Yeah, and I think in the case it was talking about, they would have the groups where they would open about whether they should seek another job or, benefits of everything. So, it's not like an employee-employer relationship where you don't want to go to them and ask them, say, hey, I'm thinking about leaving. What's my options? You actually had somebody you could talk to that wasn't going to judge you and give you good, valuable feedback.
I think another point is through your struggles and trials throughout your daily business, with a mentor, your failures are a lot smaller, a lot easier to overcome. So instead of this great valley of up and down, it's more of a kind of a steady plateau, slight, yeah, you're still going to have your challenges, but at least you feel more confident and comfortable in making your decisions because you'll have another advice that could steer you in the better direction to avoid those major problems. It says, what other approaches or programs might help employees to develop their careers? So besides just mentoring, what other approaches or programs might you feel be beneficial?
I think they could develop for just in lack of other words, as kind of a university, just an online type deal that gives you information about different jobs, or helps you, gives you quizzes or something about different jobs or whatever you need to do, so that you can go in and do a self-paced learning about the different things that the company would have to offer.
Some might be self-driven like that. Others more of a hands-on, because that's my type of individual person. I struggle with just
I think it helps.
quizzes.
Well, I think it helps both. I mean, if you have the documentation out there, the visual of what's going on, and then the quizzes may or may not be good, but just something that's out there. Like our company has kind of they call it CX University, Company's Career Express, where you can go to the website and you have a question about the programming that we use or something. You can go on there and it'll give you some data for it and some things. So, it's maybe not as good as mentoring, but it's out there as a learning tool for us.
That's awesome. I remember some jobs that had that. Was it mandatory or is it like a secondary option?
When I first started, it was kind of mandatory. Now it's kind of a secondary option, that you don't need to go through it. They've kind of gone to other avenues, but
one thing
Go ahead, Jason.
One thing that I think they could benefit from is maybe having tutorial type classes for people that are not selected. I know they have a rigorous selection process for the mentoring, but maybe a more open class type meeting where anyone that wants to participate can, with the approval of their manager. And it's 30 minutes to an hour, and it just teaches them how to prepare their essay. So if they're wanting to apply for a higher position, or a class 1 month might be how to get their personal brand recognized in the company. And so it's just kind of broad classes for anyone that wants to join, instead of just the one-on-one mentoring.
Any other thoughts?
The time frame was also talked about a lot, saying that like being a year, or that people got unmotivated, and that the time frame of the specific mentorship was an issue too.
Years are a really long time.
Yeah, and I think things change over a year, and what they thought their mentor was what they wanted, but they could have learned and actually wanted something different after
and
a couple
had to make
months.
up the time too, didn't they?
Yeah, and then I could see you being stuck with a mentor that you learn isn't really what you wanted in the first place. I don't know.
What about from our earlier reading, possibly about training games, kind of implementing something like that? Because I know all work is no fun. Maybe if you mix it up with a little bit of fun, all work and a little bit of play might help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in a couple of classes that have used things like Jeopardy to teach us principles and so on and regulations, and it really is a struggle for the teacher to find that perfect balance of like fun and teachability, because I mean, what they're teaching is not fun. So for them to make a game out of it's a real long stretch, but if they can do it, I can see that being effective.
I was going to say it comes down to the prep time that they're willing to invest and the actual core values that they're really wanting to teach you. I've had one employer try to just get us to communicate, to know the upper division by doing, what was it? Say 3 things about yourself. 2 of them have to be false, 1 has to be true, and everybody has to, you know, see if you're lying or not, which was, yeah. So anyways, for the next question is, has any of you guys had experience mentoring or being a mentoree that you would like to share? What were the benefits? What obstacles did you have to go overcome? And what were the downsides?
I'm currently kind of mentoring somebody. We just had a new person start in my position. You know, we cover basically the United States. Before it was me and one other guy covering half and half. We just hired somebody that's going to take kind of the Midwest portion right now. So I had to go out to Atlanta and work with him for a week, and you know, just calling him every day, you know, talking to him every day about certain things, making sure he's on the right track, and you know, working through to learn our customers and our vendors and work through all that. So I mean, it's kind of good, you know. He's probably more senior than me in the industry, but you know, with the new role in the new company, I've got a lot to train him, and you know, in some ways, he's going to help me too because industry knowledge too.
Well, I mean, it's like sharing the responsibility, so that's a benefit of lightening the load so that you can focus on the other and most important tasks that you need to accomplish. As far as the obstacles, I mean, you might have a little bit more difficulties communicating back and forth because you have to travel to actually, you know, see each other in person to read their body language.
Yeah, he lives in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm in South Carolina, so you know, what's that?
Is that the only downside, or is there other downsides to mentoring? Yeah.
I mean, that's probably the biggest challenge. And I mean, with technology though, I mean, phone, internet, you know, we could do a pretty good job of communicating. And, you know, I'm working with him now to do some reports that we have to do for certain customers. You know, and then also helping him with the culture of our company, because, you know, the company he came from was a lot different, even though it's transportation, the way they did things was different, you know, and that company is actually no longer in business. You know, so it is different, and it does create. Overall, it's not bad.
Awesome. Anybody else have something they'd like to share?
I think we've all kind of had our internships where we gained a mentor, and for me it was a mentor where I work, and showed me a lot of opportunities. Probably the best thing I got from my mentor was actually networking appointments. I was able to speak with people way higher in the company that I never would have been able to speak with before, and learn from them. So my mentor helped me gain further mentors. But my biggest complaint of that is that everyone in a company is always moving, and they're always busy, and they're shuffling around. So I've basically lost touch with all of those mentors. So
I kind of feel the same. I collected a mentor, which I still regularly visit with when I internship with him, but it got me higher recognition with all the more executive individuals, and I still see them. So, I mean, I guess I kind of put a target on my back because I feel like they expect more from me now, but I still feel
You're not a nobody now.
I'm not a nobody. Everybody knows who I am and they recognize who I am, but I'm still in a position that I have like no power. I can't really do anything about it. Because they're like, hey, aren't you that one? Yeah, it's like, yeah, I was in your group meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like at the end of the meeting, it's like, do you have anything to report, Jordan? I was like, no, I'm not in a position to report anything. So, all righty. Would a less formal mentoring program be even better where mentorees are free to find whoever mentor they need to help them progress in their careers rather than being assigned to someone?
I don't know if that would be the case. I mean, I think in some places it would, but sometimes if you look for someone, they might be too busy. It might be the person you need or you want, but they're might not be in a position to help you. Like they might be too busy.
Yeah, I can see some advantages of the free form deal, but the good thing about the way they set it up in the Federal Reserve was it forced people to find somebody new. They may not have known them before, so it forced somebody to get them out of their comfort zone. Because if you're going for a mentor, it's normal. You're going to normally look around circles of people you know or already have some kind of a relationship with. So I mean that can be good and it can help, but I think this way it forced them to find somebody new.
I think knowing somebody kind of made it more of a handicap because you're more comfortable with them and you're not necessarily asking the right questions that you need to. But on the other downside of trying to pick a free mentor is they might not be the right pair for you. Like they might not be the type of mentor in the division that, is your strong suit of where you actually need to learn the most. Whereas when they paired them off, they understand, well, this is you in this department and this is your weakness and this is how we need to strengthen your weakness by giving you that specific mentor where he can help you, excel.
Yeah, imagine getting a mentor in a department you work in and you're like, how can I get out of this department? I hate this department. What can you do to get me out of here? So there's a lot of politics in regards to having a mentor in a department you're already in. And so it really does benefit to be able to branch out and have the experience from someone else.
Awesome. Says, why would a company want to create a formal mentoring program rather than allowing mentor relationships to form more naturally? I think we hit on that quite a bit, but if there's any more.
Do they form naturally?
Yeah.
I don't think they do.
Yes and no. As I'm progressing in my particular industry, I actually seek out individuals that have the knowledge, and I created a greater friendship. I mean, these are individuals that I've never met before. I don't know anything about them, but when I need to complete a certain task, I know just the right individual in the right, different departments that I actually have developed. I guess that kind of that natural, mentorship, saying, hey, I need this from you, and how do you go about doing this the correct way rather than me just kind of, flying by the seat of my pants and hope that it works out. Because if it goes wrong, I don't want to talk with my boss.
Yeah, I could just imagine, though, some employees being afraid to be that social or to network that far. Yeah, I guess where I'm at, it's not as natural for the mentoring. You either really have to push for it or it has to be something that you assign. And so the internship for me was really the only way I was able to do it.
2 versus 1.
I guess it depends on the individual whether they choose to try to actually develop a friendship and someone that they can feel that is a mentor, I guess. Other people could be very shy, like you say, and not really reach out to anyone individually. So do you think the formal would be a better way to go then?
I guess I'm a fan of the hybrid, both. So going formal and informal, just having tailoring it to everyone's specific needs.
Okay,
Still plugging in.
what might have been improved in the Federal Reserve Bank program?
The mentoring program or the
Yeah, the Federal Reserve program. So the program that they've discussed in the case study. I mean, what needed to be improved to really? One that we talked previously was about the timing, how the length of the timing wasn't really consistent or wasn't really working to, help develop that individual. So what other things would need to be improved with that particular program?
I think an opportunity to have multiple mentors and not just one, which will open up even more doors and opportunities within the bank instead of just having one. Also, someone said something about like an online thing where you can like get to know all of the other mentors too. That sounds like a good idea.
What do you think less people signed up for the second round?
The two things that kind of stuck out to me as I was reading, the first thing was, that they turned down whatever it was, 20 some, 30 some people, or rejected them. And, so once you get turned down the first time, you may not really want to apply again. You feel like you were out of it. So I think that probably hurt a little bit of it. Even people on the outside said, well, hey, these guys got turned down, so I'm not even going to try because why would they take me? And then the second thing was they didn't advertise it and they didn't push it as much the second time because they thought it was already out there. But, it's still a newer program, and I think they still needed to advertise and work it almost as much as they did that first time too.
I had the same feelings on that.
Yep, completely agree.
Well, you highlighted on one of the other questions. It was, what can the company have done to get more applicants? You say we needed to, spread the word. We needed to advertise it. We needed to post, whether it's emails or billboards or even posters or whatever. What else could the company have done to get more applicants?
I think feedback from the last year's the last year's mentors and mentees, like having them speak in front of people, tell them about their experiences would help as well.
Yeah, even to push. Go ahead.
I was gonna say they could have the people who have been part of it talk to their friends about it. Talk to people who they work with who they think could benefit from it. Make recommendations.
Dude, I died again by the freaking AI.
I was going to say use them to advertise. Have them go out and be the one standing in the lunchroom. Have them rotate that instead of having the Amy and the other lady do that, so that they can see people that it actually benefited from it, and they can actually answer the questions right there. Well, what did you think of it? What was going on? And I think they would have been one of the biggest advertising tools available, both the mentors and the mentorees.
I thought in the case it was interesting the Q&A questions that they had. Talked about like, am I assuming the opportunity for a new position and certain questions like that. Addressing those questions from last year to everybody would probably be important too.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a page of like Q&A questions that were probably really important that they make sure that everyone knows about that.
All right. Next question. Guess I'll just go down the line of here. Brian, why should they do, or what should they do with the mentoring program moving forward? Should they expand it or should they keep it small? Kind of a, more in depth. What should they do moving forward?
I think a lot of it depends on what kind of resources they want to put into it. I mean, they already found with 25 people that, their project manager went from 10 hours a week to basically taking that on as a full-time job. So how many people do they want to have put in there to kind of take that role for how many different groups? Because I think if you're going to keep it smaller than one person's fine, but if you want to expand it, you've got to get another Amy in there to help with all that work. So I think it depends more on where the company wants to be with it and how much in resources they want to throw to it.
Okay. Caleb, what do you think? Moving forward.
Well, I was going to think they should pick their group. They should decide what they want to accomplish within their department or that area. And pick, we want this many people to progress in this specific way. Move forward from there.
RC, should they expand or should they keep it small?
I think in a way of expanding, I think they should like shorten the mentoring frame and maybe do like half the time and add 2 to a year maybe, or something with even smaller groups, or even add it more to the circle one where they get 6 people together with like 2 mentors or something. That's going to be more successful.
Okay. Everett, what
I
do you
wonder.
think?
I wonder if the last year's mentors or mentees weren't able to reapply. Like, why were they not allowed to reapply with a different mentor for the next year? Because I feel like that'd be another opportunity as well. That would improve, or letting people cycle through faster would also be a good idea.
I think with a small group, that would be feasible, but if it was a large group, to let somebody go twice through the application process and all the other individuals haven't yet, I don't know how much time or how much patience those other individuals would have to actually go through the cycle.
Yeah, for the people who weren't accepted, they might get frustrated with people who get a second chance.
Yeah. Jason, what do you think?
So I think moving forward, they need to have senior management really kind of buy into the program and also help advertise it, saying, hey, we're so proud of so-and-so for completing the course, and maybe giving out awards or something. I think that they should keep everything the way it is when it comes to pairing mentors and mentees, but they should broaden their acceptance protocol. So that way they're not pushing people away so much. Hopefully they'll get more employees pushing for it. And if they run out of mentees, maybe mentors, maybe a mentor could take on 2 mentees or something, and have some kind of special recognition for them as well, the mentors. So from senior leadership, giving them the incentive to push that way, because as far as the whole company invests in itself, then everyone's going to get better, and the entire company is going to improve its productivity and efficiency.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I think it's kind of a ratio between the mentor and the mentorees. You don't want to have too many people involved, but you want as many as you can for as mentors you have. Kind of like the classroom idea. You don't want too many students in one particular classroom that they can't get that individual attention that they need to grow. So I guess as far as developing that program, it would depend on how many mentors you have available to expand that. The next question is how do you get more people involved without forcing them to get involved?
Word of mouth success is probably the biggest selling point.
Okay. How can they encourage people who really need mentoring to get mentored? So there's always usually the individual that you work with that you see that they have that need, but they're not willing to really acknowledge it, accept it, or even, to maybe put forth the effort. How would you encourage individuals such as that to do that?
In the case, there was a couple that Amy suggested should try out for the mentoring program. So, I mean, I think it's just realizing what people's capabilities are, where they're at in their career, what if they've been pigeonholed, and just kind of reaching out to them and saying, hey, look, they got this mentoring program. Talk to Billy Bob Joe, who took it was in it last year, and see what he did and how it worked with him, and see if it's something he'd be interested in. And just kind of put it in as a referral like that.
Okay. How do they get enough people to mentor? Like, how would you get people to be involved, to saying what incentive is it for them to, dedicate their time or the resources of knowledge to mentor people? How would you get mentors?
I think that would go back again to senior leadership being involved in the process, because what they could do is assign awards, a recognition for mentors that they can put in their resume. If they're wanting to get into a higher position in the company, they want to be a department manager or something, they can say, hey, I've mentored people. They've been successful. I am an influential person. It can be even considered volunteer work. So it gives them an incentive to they themselves move forward.
Okay.
Monetary always speaks to that side.
Gift cards.
The one thing you want to be careful of by doing too many incentives and stuff, though, is you're going to bring out, they're not going to be doing it for the right reasons. So, I mean, there's a fine line on how to make that happen. But again, normally when you get people that are smart, and you get it one of two ways: either they're really eccentric and don't want to help, or they want to show what they know and prove what they know. So you can kind of go towards their ego and say, "Hey, look, you become a mentor. You can really show what you know and prove yourself." And going back to what Jason was saying, that it is something you can put on your resume. It's something that'll help you progress within our company, and so forth. So I think if you stroke egos with people that are in the position of mentor, you've got a good chance of getting them to do something as well.
Whoa. Come on.
Okay. Pretty much the last question is kind of a combination question. It said, I would need to ask each of you, what would you do? And you need to be specific in what exactly you do, like what approach you would do. And then we are going to weigh the pros and cons and decide together, or I guess come to a team vote on which approach we like the best. So Brian, going back to it, depending on how you'd want to expand the program or keep it small, if you were in their shoes, in your position and knowing what you know, what specifically would you want to do?
I think
to have the
think
next
the
round
approach,
be successful.
I think the approach should be to keep the classes or the rounds fairly small. No more than probably 35 groups. Because one, it'll keep people wanting to come back for more. But the best, if it's a smaller group, you've got a little bit more control over it and what's going on. You don't have. It's easier to manage, and I do kind of agree that they could do smaller classes more often. Either even if you do it for a year, you could start one like every 6 months and kind of overlap them. Because once you get to 6 months with a mentor-mentee group, they kind of know what's going on, and then you can start a fresh group, and then you got kind of a rotation going that way.
Okay.
It's just that one.
Awesome. All right, Caleb. Your strategy.
The specific, I said I wasn't following the exact
Could you get a little closer? I can't hear you.
So what? But
Okay, I can hear you now.
so for the strategy, what is the strategy geared toward? I wasn't quite following that part.
They killed 3 of us.
I can't hear you now. It just cut out.
Look at that.
Nope.
That's a revolt.
Your mic's probably on the side of your computer.
I'm holding it on the bottom.
Okay, perfect. I can hear you just like that.
I'm not holding the size anymore. So for the strategy, what type of strategy was this geared toward?
So we're talking about how the pilot program turned out so well. The second program didn't turn out so well. We've discussed the pros and cons of what made it good, what didn't make it good. Your strategy is for going into the third round. What changes would you do to have the best result, or I guess a better turnout?
I thought that's what it was, but I didn't want to start going into that and be wrong.
Oh no, you're fine.
So I would say making the so the periods of time, not a year. A year is a really long commitment. And that can be kind of scary for people. And so I'd make it maybe like 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months. But kind of capping it out towards there. And if they want to continue it, make that an option. But kind of just keeping that short, and then you can do 2 a year, or 3 a year. And then after that, before that really, making sure people know the incentives. And say, this is going to be good for you, but have specific things that can benefit them in their career. And you also know this is going to expand in the company, let's give you those opportunities you really want. And also picking people that you think can really benefit from the most, not just say this category, but say, okay, managers, which people that you supervise can really be benefited by this?
I have some ideas. I agree with what Jason was saying.
What's that?
If they get better support from upper management, it would make the biggest difference. And also, we all agreed upon the advertising, to increase advertising and make it shorter. So those are the 3 things I think we all can agree upon.
Okay, would you keep the classes the same? Would you make them bigger or smaller? And the duration? Everett?
What questions?
Would you keep the classes the same? Would you expand them, make them smaller? And for the duration of the program itself, would you keep it at a year? Would you make it shorter or longer?
I think we could keep it shorter, but if some have like success with certain mentors, that they could stay continuing with that mentor, but definitely I'd make it shorter. And
Okay.
I'd keep the groups the same size.
Okay. All right, Darcy.
Sorry.
What's your strategy?
I definitely would go shorter. I kind of felt the same way. Like I would do it at 6 months intervals and get a few more classes through. I'd probably do it even more in a group format where there was like 2 people to 1 mentor, so there could be some collaboration on not only with just the mentor and the mentee, but like just more people to build a network with. So.
Okay. All right. Jason, you're going to bring us home.
I guess mine's a little bit of what everyone's been saying. My biggest emphasis has been the senior leadership buy-in, because they set the pace for everyone below them. Everyone below them is hoping their managers are okay with them going to these things, and they're hopeful that it'll be recognized. And so if senior leadership buys in, everyone knows that they can follow that pace. So senior leadership needs to buy in. Just like everyone's saying, it needs to be shorter. I'd say like 6 months. And I am actually, I guess, a little more opposed to what everyone's saying as far as the size. I say the size should be as big as many people as apply. Don't turn anyone away that wants to learn. and give them the opportunity to learn from someone, and for the mentors, maybe some volunteer to take on more people, and then that also can reflect in at the end of everything how many they helped through.
Give me just a second. Somebody's apparently at the door for me.
Say what?
He just needs a second, and we'll get a conclusion. So after discussing all this, it looks like we've all had kind of a group, I guess, what we all voted for, that the approach would be a shorter training turnover, or at least a overlap. And for those that are really excelling in the program, that they may continue with a mentor. I guess the farther you get in with that kind of a relationship, you not necessarily be as dependent on them. So that would free up the mentor's time to take on more mentorees. It also looks like I guess we all need to vote on whether we want to keep the same size or whether to grow. But it looks like currently we're all more in favor of the smaller groups, but Jason might persuade all the others. So that is the vote. Do we all stand by the smaller group, or are we all going to take on Jason's idea?
I had to be the voice of opposition.
Oh, no.
What do you think, Brian? What's your vote?
I mean, I'm okay with a slightly larger team. The one thing I wouldn't want is, I think the one-on-one mentee relationship's better, because what'll happen is if that mentor takes on more than one, he could potentially pay more attention to another, leave one out. I think the one-on-one's the best bet to go. So it has to be at least be a one-on-one relationship, and if I don't think it should be astronomical 50, 100 groups, but anyway, that's my opinion.
Well,
I think it should be still smaller type groups.
All
What's
right,
that?
I said there's only 200 employees.
What's your final answer on that vote, Caleb? Do we
I think
change
smaller,
our?
more manageable.
You want to keep smaller? All right, that's 2 for the smaller. Darcy, are you going to keep with your answer?
I
Not as many people on.
Smaller. I think that if you keep them in smaller one-on-ones, I think you definitely have to offer some maybe online tutorial type mentoring for everybody else.
All right,
But I think if you shorten the time frame, you get more people through anyway.
I agree. All right, Everett.
Yeah, same. Smaller.
Smaller? All right, Jason. I'm sorry you're voted off the island.
It was a good
All
effort.
right. Well, everyone, we hit it right on the nail. That was actually, we hit all the questions on the actual whole thing. So we got through from point A to point B. I think we did a wonderful job. I'm going to stop the broadcast. We can quickly brief on the doohickeys, and then everybody can do what they need to do. Okay?
All right.
Okay.